Hello, my name is Mandy Starmer, and I am doing my final project on podcasting and what that looks like in an elementary classroom. Hello, my name is Mandy Starmer, and I am doing my final In today's presentation, I'm going to cover several topics surrounding podcasting in the elementary classroom context. Introducing the topic, talking about why we do podcasting, how to get started, materials that you might possibly need, extra resources that I've accumulated along the way in my own research journey, and then additional references. So why should we podcast in a classroom? Throughout the years, as digital learning has sort of rose to the top of, the way that we learn in non-traditional ways, there has been an abundance of resources and strategies and things like that on the internet that you can access as an educator. In top trending news and issues within instructional technology, podcasting in the classroom is one of the main new strategies a lot of people are wanting to integrate and try, including myself. I decided that I would take this summer to sort of delve into all of the different things that go into podcasting as far as resources, materials, the benefits, research surrounding it. And I wanted to use this presentation just to sort of highlight the available resources that support the integration of podcasting and explore the benefits in case you've ever wanted to try it yourself. Podcasting has a lot of benefits. Kids can get started in creating audio, creating content, having a voice. It gives them a platform to express their ideas and, enhance collaboration and communication skills, which we all know are going to be very important skills for them in the future, as well as their continued history as a scholar. So why should we podcast? There are several benefits for using podcasting in the classroom with your students. I'm only going to list a few, but there are many resources that you can check out on my references and lots of research that supports that. But one of the main benefits is enhancing communication skills. We want students to be able to get with peers, get with adults, and improve their verbal communication skills. They can articulate their thoughts, organize ideas, they can plan for episodes and create transcripts and draft interviews. They become more fluent, and their self-expression, it evolves over time. And that's something that can really help students that are typically more introverted. They can find their own place and their own voice in a project like this when there's lots of opportunities for them to take on a different role and be a part of a group, but not necessarily have to be in the exact spotlight that they probably don't want to be in. So they may be drafting interview questions, they may be editing, but they're still a part of something that is big and collaborative. Fostering creativity and critical thinking. It encourages students to think creatively and critically as they're planning and they're conceptualizing their different podcast episodes. They have the opportunity to explore various topics, conduct research, analyze information, and present their findings in a compelling manner. Additionally, they can, create logos, create audio, and download the audio to use as introductory or closing music. There are lots of possibilities. The options are completely endless to how you can foster creativity with your students as far as podcasting in the classroom. Again, student voice. It's a big one. Amplifying their student voice by empowering them to have a voice, sharing their perspectives on subjects that matter to the kids. It promotes inclusivity as all students are contributing, regardless of their writing abilities or language proficiency, and regardless of their comfortability speaking in front of others. They can speak behind the scenes into a microphone and just include their audio without having all of the eyes on them. So it's a really good way to give students a platform to use their voice regardless of their learning styles or their personality type. So you may be wondering how you can get started with podcasting in your classroom, because I'm kind of in the same position. I really want to implement podcasting this year. I love everything that, it surrounds. I love everything about the idea of integrating it with my students. And there's a lot of steps, but I broke it up into two, sort of the planning stages and then also the hosting. So you can plan the podcast, you can create that podcast, but if you don't have a platform to host it or the tools and knowledge and what, kind of goes around hosting, then you're not really getting the message out there. You're not getting the students' content and voices out there. So for planning, the kids are going to need to select topics, define goals, and outline episodes. And you can act as the facilitator for this, or you can scaffold it so that you have a little bit more control over the content. It just depends on what's best for your students and what's best for you. Lesson plans and curricular integration. There are lots of ways that educators can find different ways to kind of make the podcast go cross-curricularly, have all of the different things the students are learning in all other rooms in the building, in STEM and PE and art and music, and then in math and science and all of the different content areas. They can take those things that they're learning and bring them over into the podcast. So, for example, if your school is working on a project-based learning or a PBL, they can they can interview students from the different grade levels, talk about, where the progress is going, where it's going, where the direction is, how the research is coming along, and, interview teachers about the goals and what the students are doing. If they're working in the garden, if they're, making homes for bees to help with pollination, like whatever it is, things like that can be integrated into the podcasting episodes. As far as hosting, there are lots of different ways that you can host. Some of them are free, some of them are not. Some of them are a little bit more protected privacy-wise, and some of them are pretty open. There are platforms that kids can, or anyone can upload and share their podcasts with to reach a broader audience. And like I said, they're free, they can be low cost, but at least it ensures the students' work is easily accessible and it can be shared with classmates, families, and other people and stakeholders within the community. So you may be wondering how you can get started with podcasting in your. So you're going to need some materials to get started. You can do grants, you can try Donors Choose, you can do a lot of different things. Just see, talk to your accountant at your school to see what your budget's like, fundraisers, class donations, whatever it is. But however you manage to gather your materials, you're going to need to start with recording equipment and some software. So you can invest in affordable recording equipment like microphones, headphones. You can get donations, but you want to make sure that you have good audio quality. And there are lots of software applications that are pretty user-friendly and that you will need for editing and publishing. For example, to record and edit software, you can use Audacity. It's free, it's open source, it's audio editing software, and it has pretty simple features. There's also GarageBand, but it's specifically for Mac. And for sound effects and music libraries where students can download the MP3s, you can use freesound.org. There's an online library full of sound effects, music, lots of samples that are frequently used in podcasts. There's Ben Sound, Ben Sound. It offers a collection of royalty-free music and tracks that can be used for background music and podcasts. Then some of the podcasting platforms that are pretty popular as far as hosting is Anchor and Podbean. Those two are free for the most part. Free podcast hosting platform is Anchor, and then I'm not sure if Podbean is free. Oh, yes, it has free and paid plans. I had to double check my notes. Free and paid plans, customizable websites as well, and it's easy to distribute to popular podcast directories through there. There are so many really cool tools and resources out on the internet that students can really get into when creating their own podcast. One of those is to be able to use AI for voiceovers. So if I wanted to take some text and put it in here, I can use the audio file in the podcast. So let's give it a shot. Okay. So let's say that I want to use this one right here and I could export that, even though this is a premium feature. Assume that I could export that, it would save it as an MP3, and then we could teach the students how to embed those or how to upload those MP3 audio files in the editing software to include in their podcast. In conclusion, podcasting brings improved communication skills, enhanced creativity, amplified student voice, teamwork, collaboration, and a sense of community in the school while you're involving everyone who wants to be involved, and an engaged learning experience, among so much more. Throughout the research, I found a quote that supports the project. It says, furthermore, the students reported to be more confident and acquired a higher level of self assurance, which was in line with Chester, 2011 study, and whose students have developed a high level of self efficacy. And the results showed the students were more motivated, and it confirmed the findings in a 2011 study in which significant positive results were found about the motivating role of podcasting. Some of the resources that I wanted to share that will really help enhance podcasting in your classroom and get you started. Some of them came from the KSU I Teach team. They do a program called Tech Eds, and usually your school can pick one representative or two representatives, however many, to attend this professional learning. I've fortunately been able to attend it, I believe, 3 times, so every resource that I know that I might like to use in the future, I save. And this is just some of those that I would like to share. So, in order to get started with podcasting, you can actually start introducing it as having your students listen to some podcasts. You can also listen to them yourself, just for professional development, self growth. But when you're doing that, you can use a resource such as this podcast notes and takeaways. You list the podcast, the episode, takeaways, and to-dos, and this gives the students an idea of structurally what the goal should be within a podcast, sort of what you want your takeaway to be from each episode. You also have something like this is a little bit more basic, but it's really a good way to scaffold the entire purpose of the podcasting lesson. So for the kids, they could sit down together in groups and talk about what will the episode's focus be? What's the title? What information are you going to be sharing? You could talk about who's going to host, co-host, produce, and guest appearances. And I really like the way they have them plan out the interview, when and where you're going to interview them, whether it's teachers, staff, whoever it is, and then go ahead and list out the questions that you're going to ask. How many segments will each episode be, and then other music, audio, things like that. So this is just a good example of how you can use something like this to get started. The students could use this to create an outline for their podcast, talking about, what they'll say at the end, like tune in next time or until next time, just sort of having that slogan at the end to kind of keep it uniform and, very professional. Another graphic organizer for podcast sketch notes. You could talk about the episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sort of predict what's going to happen next. It's a good way to sort of plan out the direction that the podcast is going in. And I really like the idea of giving, different groups a sheet like this and having them sort of come up with their own episodes and then piecing them all together. So maybe group 1 gets to interview some of the resources that I wanted to share that will really help enhance podcasting in your class. If you click here in this folder, you will find my references that I've shared with you. It's a folder within inside a folder. The folder that I'm inside is actually the one on the previous slide, and you will find all the resources and references in there. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope that you found some new information, some useful information, and I hope that you are ready, just as eager as I am, to integrate podcasting into your elementary school classroom.